Welcome back to LUTE Labs. Last time we took a tour of LUTE inside Unity. Now let's actually get it installed and set up your first project inside Unity. First, we'll cover what Unity version you need to ensure LUTE installs correctly. We'll check prerequisites, install LUTE itself, and sort out any third-party setup that it needs. Then we'll check out what the project offers when you first import it, and where to go from here. You can install LUTE in two different core ways. First, simply by cloning here or downloading the zip file and opening the project in the Unity Hub way that you are most likely familiar with. This will import the packages that are needed and open LUTE likely without any errors at all. You could also fork our repository if you wish. The second method, which is aimed at more beginners, is to use the release method. Go to the GitHub page for LUTE, and on the right-hand panel here, you'll find a releases link. Under the releases, we recommend installing the most up-to-date version. Currently, this is version 1.2.2. You can find specifics on what is required before installing LUTE. We do recommend Unity 2022 or above, but in particular, we recommend the most up-to-date version of 6. In this case, anything above 6.2 is optimal. You can download this for free by following the link on the releases page. Next, you'll need to install. You need to go to the installation wiki page for more information on actually how to install it. As noted, you can fork or clone, and we built a GitHub tutorial to go over the basics on how to do this. This is great if you're a first-time Git user. As I noted, you should have Unity 6, 6.2 and above really for an optimal experience. In addition, you want to make sure that you're using the universal render pipeline. Any template does work, but the universal render pipeline is intended to be used with LUTE. The first step to installing LUTE is to create a new Unity project. You can do this in the way that you are most likely familiar with. When you first create a Unity project, and you navigate to the folder that the project is installed in, you find a file called manifest.json. In the releases page, we include our own manifest.json file. This is essentially pointing towards packages that are required for this project. All you have to do is copy our own file, our own manifest file, into your own project and open the project again. This will import and install all the packages that are required for LUTE to work correctly. Upon doing so, your project is ready. At this stage, you should use the Unity package that is included from the releases page. You can either do this in two ways. You can simply just double click the file and it will begin the import in your project, or you can go into Assets, Import Package, and then Custom Package, and then find the package file that was included in the releases folder. Next, we'll head into the Unity Editor windows to find out what third-party requirements are needed to get LUTE working and up and running smoothly as possible. Okay, so now we're back in the Unity editor with LUTE installed. I'll quickly show you the area where we can actually add the packages. So once you've downloaded the release, you'll have the package file and you'll have the manifest file as well. We've gone over how the manifest file works, but now we'll quickly talk about where you can find the import button for packages. Under Assets, in the toolbar at the top, you'll see a button called Import Package. If you press Custom Package, it will load the File Explorer, and then you can just find the package file that you've downloaded from the releases page and click this. This will open a whole import window, and all you have to do is import all the files. And once you've done so, your project should look something along these lines. Perhaps with some extra files, which are the kind of default template files that Unity has when you create a new project. The next thing you want to do is double check the packages are installed correctly. To do so, head to the top toolbar again, and under Window, Package Management, and Package Manager, the Package Manager window will open. Have a look here, check out all the packages we have installed, and compare against your own project. Make sure that they do match, and if they don't, either use the manifest method that we've discussed previously, or simply manually install them based on the names and versions you see here on this list. Next, we'll talk about adding the map layer. The map layer is used to ensure that the camera renders the map correctly without overlaying other objects on top of it and ensuring that the input handling works to drag and zoom in and out with the map. To do so, simply click on any object in your scene. It can be an empty scene with just a camera in it. Head over to the inspector and go to the layer drop-down. You may see when you first open, number 3 could possibly be blank. It might not say map. You want to go to add layer, and if this is blank, simply add the layer map, or just add map anywhere so LUTE can recognize that there is a layer called map. Next, we'll talk about some build settings for Android. Now, if you have Android installed as a target output, this is great. If you don't know how to do that, simply consult the Unity documentation on how to add Android as a target output for exportation. To load the build profile window, we're going to use a shortcut. We hold down Control, or Command if you're a Mac, Shift, and B. This loads the build profile window. We're going to adjust some player settings here. Simply follow the player settings button. First, ensure that you actually have Android installed if you are using Android, and it doesn't need to be active, it just needs to simply be installed. Then go to player settings and ensure you're on the Android settings tab. The first thing we'll change or ensure that it is correct is the input handling. Under other settings, we'll scroll down and we'll find active input handling field. Typically, this is set to the new package, but LUTE uses the old package with some new aspects of the input system as well. Therefore, we set this to both. Next, we want to ensure that the minimum API level is as low as possible so we can target as many devices as possible. In our latest Unity version, which is 6.4, the lowest it goes to is 7.1 or level 25. Ensure that target API level is therefore set to automatic, so it goes to the highest possible installed version. Finally, we'll talk about the application entry point. We choose to set this to activity rather than game activity. Essentially, some of the plugins, mostly in Mapbox, use some old kind of processes, let's say, which require some legacy build settings. So the thing to note really is just make sure that application entry point is set to activity, not game activity, or you could even have it as both if you need to. Okay, so that's all the build settings you need for Android, and that's all the packages you'll need for LUTE to work. At this stage, I hope you have all of these projects, all of these project folder here, and that there are no errors in your console window. Next, we'll talk about using the demo scenes to make sure that your game works correctly. You'll see in the project window, there's a folder called LUTE Starter Scenes. You go into there, and then into the folder called Games, you can see a collection of different demos and scenes that you can play around with to understand how LUTE works. We recommend starting with a basic game or demo to understand how each of the simple node and executions work and how those things we discussed in the previous video tie together to make a more complicated and complete game. Let's start by using the basic game demo, and we'll open this scene up here. So the basic game demo uses the simple prefab, and the prefab can be found, I believe, if we find it. Yeah, the prefab can literally be found in the folder for the basic game demo. This is great if you want to just build your own scene. You can just simply drag this prefab into the scene. We go to the flow engine, as we noted last episode. We can open the flow engine window here, and you can see it's a very basic game with a start menu and a location example and a menu, an in-game menu as well. So I think we should be able to play this and just get a good idea of what this basic game will look like. Yep. So the game starts, and you have basic node here, some dialogue, showing a menu, and then fading a sprite. So what we'll see is this showing a map menu in which the map can then be loaded. You should be able to build this straight away. So if we go back into the build profile menu and you ensure all of these are included in your scene list, they should be there just by importing or copying over the project from GitHub. And you should be able to just build it directly to Android or even Windows if you want to just test it locally on your machine, or Mac OS if you're using Mac. We have noted before that it's a good idea to start the level select scene. And the level select scene is simply just a menu with all of those scenes which are included in the scene list when you build. But in this case, you can just, it's a more of a user-friendly manner. This should cover the most basics of using LUTE in Unity, how to import the project, and how to get set up. So that should be LUTE installed and your first project ready to go. At least that's what we hope. Next episode, we'll actually start putting these things together. We'll talk about how to use the basic prefabs, how nodes work on the canvas, and how they link together. So you can actually start making things happen by yourself. Thanks again for watching with LUTE Labs, and see you in the next one.